Next we have the increment and decrement operators. So these are unary operators, since these will operate on a single variable, so not on literals. So you have plus plus for increment, which adds 1 to a variable. Then you also have decrement here, which uses the double minus operator basically, and that will subtract 1 from a variable, whereas increment adds 1 to a variable. We have two ways of kind of writing this out. We can do a prefix, where the operator is on the left side of a variable. This will mean that the increment or decrement operation is performed before the rest of the expression evaluates. Then of course you also have the postfix, where the operator is on the right side of the variable, and in this case the operation, so the increment or decrement operation, is performed after the rest of the expression has evaluated. Now prefix is recommended when it does not matter, so when the increment or decrement operation is performed, since modern compilers will produce a shorter block of machine code. Alright, so when it doesn't matter, like when that increment or decrement operation is performed, use the prefix. So in this demonstration, I'm basically writing out what results are stored in these variables 3 times, right here, here, and here. In this line, what I'm doing is, so I'm printing this, and then I'm incrementing z and dividing that by x. Okay, like that. Then I'm printing the results again of my variables, so what are stored in those variables at this point in time, and then I print this, and then here I do the actual computation. So this is the actual expression here, x multiplied by y, and then the decrement operator, and then I print the results again. Control F5 to run this, build and run, and you can see that we need a space over there, right there, so I'll just add that space, do that again, yeah. So we increment z and then divide by x. So here you can see z is 7, so first we'll increment that, so it will go up to 8, divide by 2, which will give us of course 4. Now I'm printing the results of those variables again. It's important to notice here what happens when you do this. So you increment z, so right here I'm writing the increment operator, okay, z divided by x. So that will increment it. It's a unary operator. It operates only on that variable. So instead of saying z equals z plus 1 or z plus equals 1, we simply do plus plus z. But because we do that, that's not a temporary thing. Okay, that's the important thing to remember, is that this is not temporary. It will actually change what is stored in z. So it's going to increment that 7 plus 1, and it's going to store the results back in z. As you can see right here, so z goes from 7 to being 8. Okay, next we do x times y, followed by the decrement operator. Here we get 10. 2 times 5 equals 10. So it's going to perform this operation first. Okay, evaluate this operation first. Otherwise we would get a different result. We would get 8, for example. So we get 10 because it's 2 times 5. Then it decrements that number. So 5 goes from 5 down to 4. Right? And then we simply print these results again. So it's easy stuff. Of course, you can change this to see what I mean. Okay, you can do it like this. Control F5 to run. Now you'll see we do the prefix. So it will be 2 times, and then it will decrement that first. So it's going to be 4. So we'll get 8. Right? And then of course we go from 5 to 4. But it's important again to realize like when the increment or decrement happens. So it's going to happen anyway, right? Your values are going to go up or down anyway. But like when in the expression or in your statement that is going to happen, because based on that you might get different results. And especially in this case we're simply printing it out. but you might want to store this into a variable. So you have to make sure that you kind of understand what it is that you are calculating and putting back into some other variable. I'll just undo a few times. This is a fairly straightforward example. I remember when I wrote exams at university, they would give you weird things like in a loop where they use a bunch of these and it counts like 2 points, out of 80. And it feels like it's going to take 15 minutes to work out. You write like a long list of multiple variables that you have to kind of keep track to try and figure out like what it is going to print out to the screen or something, because it's handwritten in the exams at university, at least where I write, and so you have to kind of work it out. You can't just like feed it into the computer, right, and then see what happens. So I would recommend to study this, like make notes for yourself. If this is not clear enough, go and make your own notes, play around with these things and try and like see exactly what happens in your code, because these are steps, like we are building up to loops and so on, where in loops, for example, like for loops, we will be using the increment operator, the decrement operator, and various other things. So it's not like, okay, well, I don't really care about this stuff, I'll just skip it and then, study the next thing. That's not quite how it works. We'll be using this a lot as we move forward. So it's kind of important to get the hang of this stuff. All right.